It's the Score North Twin Show. Baseball.
It's a Trevor Plouffe Tuesday edition, September baseball. It's funny when you're in Southern California, but when the calendar turns to September in the Twin Cities and you lived here long enough, it's like the weather gods know. Crisp in the air, it's 53 degrees in the morning. You can start to sense that fall baseball vibe, Trev.
We were like kind of headed that way down here. Then all of a sudden we got hit with a heat wave. So I'm feeling like it's middle of summer again. I'm kind of ready for that crispness in the air, although we usually don't get until October out here.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's a crispness in the air in the Twins clubhouse right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to read you some quotes this is from The Athletic. Star Tribune had it too. I will say the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, did his own investigative reporting. And you went up to Royce Lewis a couple days ago in the Twins clubhouse and said,
for the Substack. Yeah. My Substack.
For the Score North Twin Show.
Oh, no question about it.
How you're credentialed to be there in the first place.
No question about it.
But you asked him like, hey, you play second base, huh? And he very politely told the sports dad.
Yeah. Said, I love your shows. I watch you guys a lot. I don't want to really talk about that.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
So he thought about it, and in Tampa, some of the beat writers approached, and here's what he said. I'm terrified out there. I've got so many things going on, and now we're going to add in second base. I've got Carlos Santana yelling at me, hey, go cover first, because I didn't even know I had to. I mean, I knew, but I probably would have been a second late. Little things like that are just like adding extra elements to an August-September push that's important to me. I don't know. We have plenty of really good second basemen, and I don't want to mess up our defense just because we're going to try something new. It's not spring training or AAA for that matter. So I don't know. You tell me if I'm interpreting this wrong, Coach Trev, but either Royce is being a little bit of malcontent here, or the Twins and the organization have not prepared him for a midseason throw into the fire, go play second base. Either way, you've got the most important figure in the franchise at odds with the organization now publicly as of yesterday.
I don't know if you watched my pregame from yesterday, but I said the exact same thing. Like, why are we doing this to our most important offensive piece during a time where he's kind of struggling? Like, now he's hopefully broken out of that a little bit, but you got a guy who really doesn't ever struggle. And kind of going through it for the first time, probably thinking in his head, okay, like it is what it is. I got to figure this out. And now you're going to throw this at him. I've said it all along that Royce Lewis is not a second baseman. Now, could he work this entire offseason and get comfortable at it and be a guy there? Sure. Like, he's athletic enough. I think he could figure it out. But that's kind of like not what is happening here. It's throw him into the fire, like he's saying, in the middle of a time where they're trying to secure a playoff spot. I'm not about it. And I do agree with him. There are a lot of guys that can play second base. Now, I know you want to have your best offensive team. That's the goal. Like, defense, yes, you want to play good defense. But in today's day and age, it is having your best offensive team out there. I don't think there's even a question about that. Go look at what happened to the Toronto Blue Jays. They tried to go defensive minded, and they have just fallen off a freaking cliff. So I think you can. This is what I would have done. First of all, I don't fault Royce Lewis for being honest. And we can't fault Royce Lewis for being honest. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, this is all we ever want out of our athletes. To be honest, he's being honest with you. I don't think there's a malcontent bone in that guy's body. This is what I would have done. Keep Royce at third base for the remainder of the season. Tell him, play down the line a little bit, save some runs there. Look, he's going to make some throwing errors every once in a while. But, I mean, even the defensive metrics are kind of mixed on him. Outs above average has him 2+. Defensive run save has him -2. Like, who cares? It's not that big of a deal to switch up everything. Brooks Lee, to me, seems like a guy who's okay with moving everywhere. He needs to be playing shortstop right now, but he could play second base, and I think he wouldn't even think about it. And now I don't know what that says about the difference between both of them. All I know is that Brooks Lee is a middle infielder to me. They can play third base as well. So I would have moved Brooks Lee to second base, kept Royce at third, Hopefully we get Correa back at some point. I think they're moving the wrong guy. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so here's my thing too. Like it struck me on Sunday immediately from the no comment from Royce, and I'm going to read you something that Baldelli said post game. I feel like this goes between Royce and the team, and I think we got a problem on both sides here. I think this goes, Trev, deeper than just one move. Like I don't think that this just sparked up with, hey, go play second. Rocco Baldelli, who if you ask him a question to prompt a reaction, will not go down that path. Like a lot of guys, though, will put within a quote a very sort of cryptic, oh, you're not pleased. And he was asked about, or actually he was asked about Royce's offensive exploits. And he went down the path of, well, we could talk about that, but how about him playing second base? So it started off as praise, but then he said, we didn't really ask him. We just kind of told him, you're going to second. And he went there and we needed him to, and he did it. Which is why I went to Royce and I said, are you like, and I asked Baldelli a follow-up about how do you think he's processing this? And Baldelli avoided that one. But that quote that I read you to me, I think what we've got here is a team that is strong-willed and Royce is strong-willed. He's not a malcontent, but he's strong-willed. I think we got a deeper problem here in these sides, not necessarily grasping what the other one wants, if that makes sense.
Well, not everyone is a guy that can move around the diamond. There are certain guys that can do it. And like Rocco values that so much. And honestly, I don't really know why. I don't really know why you have to have everybody moving all over the place, everyone pinch hitting all the time. That's just, I'm not into that. I'm not. I get it. Sometimes you got to have a favorable matchup and you can go and get that matchup, but you need to have guys feel comfortable. He always says Willie Castro plays better when he's moving around. I don't know if that's true. It could have just lined up that way that his offense has been good when he's been moving around. You can't show me some evidence, some real deal evidence that says Willie Castro is a better offensive player when he's moving around. It's just not there. It's really not there. He always says that about Willie. So I think that's the thing. The organization, or at least at the big league level, Rocco really values positional flexibility, but not every guy can do that. That is the truth. Are you going to ask Carlos Correa to go play first base? No, like he can do it, but he's your shortstop. Like Royce Lewis he isn't a guy that can move around. I've said that from the get-go. Like leave him at third base, let him figure some stuff out. They don't believe he can fix his throwing issue, which is, to me, what are we doing then? You can't call yourself a coach if you don't think you can coach this guy. Like you need to be able to go out there and have him figure out a throwing motion that works. Like that's where I'm at with this. I just don't think everybody's a person that can move positions at the blink of an eye. And second base, similar to first base, when you get over on that side of the diamond, things change. Left side of the infield, catch it and throw it. Everything kind of plays. It's all baseball is the right way. First base has so many responsibilities. Like Royce is saying, like you'll forget to go to be the cutoff man, to, what are you doing on bunt coverages? All these things happen. Second base is kind of the same way. It's completely, if you haven't played there, there's a lot of responsibilities. You have to be in cahoots with the first baseman about, how far over are you? Like how long do I have to wait to throw the ball? The double play is different. There's a lot of things that happen. And again, it's just, to me at this point of the year, like there are certain guys that can do it. Royce, I don't think right now is one of them. Not quickly like this. Give him an off season, sure, but I haven't agreed with this move at all this year.
In my conversation with Royce about it too, because I even asked Royce, this was like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I said, what if like go into the off season, like what this season's over, because at the time there might be a vacancy in right field. Matt Wallner or Larnach are probably gonna get the bulk of that. But I said, like, what if they told you, hey, we want you to work on maybe being a right fielder because there's an opening there. Maybe there's something to be there. And he said, I would push back against that. There just seems to be a lot of pride with Royce at playing third base. And also, I think to Trev's point that maybe us three or even maybe other listeners or just fans of the team aren't taking into consideration is the fact that there's a comfort level there where now all of a sudden you're just asking someone to do something completely different is wrong. And I think Royce is probably being the very prideful guy that he is, which we all can agree on that. I think putting him in a situation where he's not comfortable is just a very interesting move by this organization.
Can I add to what Declan's saying too? Is that because this happens in pitching too, where in a perfect world, as I knock my mic over, in a perfect world, if players are all robots or numbers and figures on a spreadsheet, dude, it would be amazing if everything was interchangeable and I can bring my closer in an hour early in the 6th inning and it doesn't matter. I can put a third baseman over in right field or second base like fantasy baseball and it doesn't matter. But there's a human element involved. There's a routine involved, and every human being is different. And this debate about Royce Lewis, it feels like Twins are saying, burp, burp, beep, burp, let's just move someone over here and continue forward. And Royce is saying, this gives me anxiety, and I'm also going through it at the plate, like Trevor was saying.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate gray area of human element versus maybe spreadsheet and analytics.
You have to be able to do both of those things as an organization. And I really do. I think the Twins have a good coaching staff. I do. But I do think they lack a little bit of that kind of experience in those situations, big league level situations. Rocco, he has big league experience. He's kind of gone the other way though. Like I don't think he draws upon his career and how he felt very often anymore. And the two other guys who have experience at the big league level that they'd like to draw on, which is Hank Conger and Tommy Watkins, they don't have that much of a say in kind of what goes on. So I think you have to be able to do both. And again, I'm going to say this to make sure everyone knows. I like the coaching staff. I think they put together guys that are grinding. They're there for the right reasons. They've helped this team. I think Pete Mackey's done a good job with the pitching staff, being able to handle, all the injuries that have come their way. I think Popkins and Showman and the rest of the guys and Rudy Hernandez has been great for the hitters. I mean, clearly the offense has not been a problem. They've had to deal with injuries and interchangeable pieces. So I think this is a good coaching staff. It is a good coaching staff. I think there is a lack of remembering what it's like to be in a baseball player's shoes. And that's the human element that we're talking about a little bit.
And if you do that to a guy who is, a backup, that's objectionable, but it's not going to bite you. My concern here is bigger picture than just one move, Trev. My concern is Royce has the potential to be a superstar, and he's already a damn good player. Do you really want to set this tone with him? And by the way, good players are going to see this and be like, oh, what's that? So like, I'm more concerned big picture, not with just this move. And that's where I think we have a little bit of a Twins problem is it feels like Royce is being treated like a run of the mill, like Castro was. And he's like, I'll play anywhere, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have
different
some guys,
circumstances, right? Between those two guys. Completely
100%.
different circumstances.
If Castro doesn't do that, he's
gone.
He's not a big, I mean.
But that's my point is it's interesting to me that they seemingly are picking this hill to die on. I mean, when Baldelli says we told him to, that is very frontal to me too. He objects, we don't care. It's Royce Lewis. I don't know that's a great move.
Yeah. Overall, I think if you're a Twins fan and you're the organization, and I think both are aligned on this, you'd like to keep Royce Lewis around long term.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you try to do that, I think the first question Royce would say is, what's the plan? Where am I going to be playing? Because he needs to be in lockstep, or else, he's got some time before he's a free agent. But it makes it harder to keep this guy around if you're not kind of aligned with your plan for the future. And I think that Royce has the potential to be, a franchise player. He might already be that for the Twins, but he has the chance to be that, a guy that can get them through a postseason, really give them real deal chances to win a World Series. He has that feel to him. He's got to do it for longer. There's no doubt about it. He's not a rookie, but I don't know how many at-bats he has under his belt. But I think we all see the potential in Royce Lewis. And you hear the veterans of the organization, Rod Carew, Tony Oliva, talk about this guy. We all see the same dang thing. So yeah, it's interesting. I think not even only from a human element perspective, which I think we're all kind of touching on here because of the quotes, but just a baseball perspective here. You can see other guys are more fit to move around the diamond than Royce is. It's the bottom line. So why are we trying to put, a square peg in a round hole? Like, let him be who he is, because the number one thing you want Royce Lewis to do is do what he did on Sunday and win you the dang game with a freaking 3-run homer. That's
Right.
what you want him to do. The defense, again, if he was a -10 outs above average and it was so bad that I don't think it's been that. We've seen some throwing errors, sure, man, but you can fix that. And I can't believe they don't think they can. I think I can. I swear I think I can.
Because I want to drill down a little bit, because you've kind of mentioned, and I mean, you know what you're looking at. You've played everywhere in the infield, and you came up on the left side.
I was also a bad thrower too. I figured things out.
So because the Twins are probably looking and saying, all right, well, on the throwing front, in terms of throwing errors this season alone, if you take throwing errors per innings played at third base, Royce Lewis is by far the worst throwing error committer in baseball. He has 6 throwing, and that doesn't count like bad throws that Carlos Santana turned into an out that probably could have been an error if you don't have a great scooping first baseman. But so it is a huge problem. And so for context, he has 6 throwing errors in just under 300 innings. Well, guys like Alex Bregman and Matt Chapman have the same amount in 3 or 4 times the innings played at third base. So how fixable is it? It was fixable for you.
It was. And what helped me out was going to the outfield. And, when you have to make 300-foot plus throws, you can't have any side spin on the ball. Like, everything has to be over the top. You really need to create true four-seam action on the ball. So that's what helped me. Long toss, long throws, long one-hop throws to somebody. And so if they were to go to Royce and say, hey, Royce, we want you to get better at your throwing accuracy. I bet Royce would be like, yeah, me too, bro. And he'd be open and he'd feel good about going and putting that extra work in. You would see Royce Lewis out there throwing across the diamond, long tossing, doing what I'm talking about. And he would feel good about that, improving, showing the people that he's willing to work at the position that, he thinks what I think he's the best at too. That's different than saying, hey, man, you can't cut it here. Go work over there and try to figure out a new position. That work to him is daunting. It makes him feel like, wow, they've kind of given up on me. If you just say, hey, we think you're our answer here. We want you to improve. Let's go put some work in. Royce Lewis will be chomping at the bit to do that. So it's the way you approach a player about his faults that, will, a lot of times dictate the end result of, the improvement. So I think you could do a lot of things with this guy. This guy's a special athlete. You can't treat him like he can't do it. Let's move on. Like, I don't think that's the case.
So if it's game 1 of a playoff game, Trev, and we have Carlos Correa back and healthy, does the infield look like Brooks Lee at third, Correa at short, Royce at second? Is that probably is that what the Twins want in game 1 of a playoff game?
I think it depends. I think you could have Royce DH a lot if everyone is healthy. I think that's an option. I think that would. So if that was the option, say we have Royce at DH, say we're facing a righty, okay, and Royce is DHing. So then you have Brooks at third, Carlos at second, other Carlos at first, Wallner, Larnick, Buxton. So you have to figure out your second baseman, and that's probably Willie Castro or Eddie Julian if he's raking. I don't know. I'd probably put Castro there right now. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you on the long-term thing too, what's easier to fix? And from listening to you talk, is it fixing a slightly broken throwing motion and keeping a guy at third base where he's comfortable? Or is it like learning a whole new position in an off season? By the way, because I remember, I covered those teams that you were playing for, and it's kind of interesting how the throwing air numbers from your first like full partial season at shortstop, basically the same throwing air ratio per innings as Royce has right now. And then they moved you to third base, but you went in the lab, you fixed it, and you cut that rate in like, you had like 25 or 30%. And I'll never forget one of your worst days in the field as a shortstop. And I was in the post-game locker room scrum, and our old friend, rest his soul, Gene Harrington from the Associated Press. It was like me, Gene, and Kelsey Smith from the Pioneer Press. And I think you had like a couple throwing errors or something. And he goes, so, Trevor, you got that throwing disease that they talk about, huh?
Yeah, asked me if I had the yips.
Yeah. And he said throwing disease or yips. And I remember like my soul left my body, because here is a 23, 22-year-old dude in the big leagues for the first time trying to figure this out. And, you're kind of being treated as like, I don't know, a non-human. What's it like having this major mental block, Trev? Here's a microphone,
No, it sucks, dude. I mean, you don't think Royce is thinking about it? Like, he puts out the outward appearance of, hey man, like I don't slump and I'm this confident, but like, obviously he's like, yeah, I need to get better throwing. So I think what's easier to correct in the near term, the throwing motion at third base. In the long term, you could, again, if they want him to play second base and they think that's the best for him, give him an off season to do it. And then tell him, Royce, guess what, dude? If you become a second baseman and you hit like you hit, your value goes whoosh, way up. So it's the way you present things to players. Now is not the time to move from the second base. I'm sorry, it's just not.
And you want to get the agent, right? Scott Boras, right? Like that's a conversation that also involves, to your point about value, and because it affects your finances down the road.
Yeah.
That's an all hands on deck conversation for a player of his caliber. Totally.
Do you think,
100%.
Trev, do you think this is all Rocco and the coaching staff, or goes all the way upstairs to Falvey?
I don't know, man. I've had really, really good conversations with Plouffe, and I didn't think that was going to be the case. I kind of had like a bad taste in my mouth from the way I got let go. But the more and more I've talked to him, the more I'm like, okay, like I kind of like what you're about. He always is talking about the mixture of data and, I guess I'm looking for a term here, data and real life coaching, or, like the baseball mentality. Like he's pretty adamant. At least he is that way with me. I don't know if he's putting on a front. It doesn't seem like it to me. I've had really, really good conversations with him. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know exactly if it's just the big league coaching staff or if he's involved. I'm assuming that they're all involved, because it seems like all the decisions are kind of made together. I do feel like Rocco maybe has, because of the flexibility that other guys have shown him on this roster, he's really, really fallen in love with it. And now I think maybe in his mind, he's like, oh, if obviously Royce can do it, but it is a case by case scenario. It really is.
Hey, Dex, before we continue forward here, let's say you're looking to come to town for a playoff game in a few weeks, but you don't have a place to stay near Target Field. Is there a place people should consider?
Absolutely. It's the Element Hotel.
Great.
Steps away, just a throwing motion away from Target Field, okay? Just a nice little throwing motion away. It's got free Wi-Fi. It's a pet-friendly hotel. Awesome place to stay. You can go to scorenorth.com/element right now for 15% off your booking. That's scorenorth.com/element for 15% off. Shout out to the Element Hotel for sponsoring programming this season on the Score North Twin Show.
Amen. And Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Score North Podcasts. In fact, I saw a Russell Nicolay Twins billboard on Washington Avenue yesterday. Big supporter of Minnesota sports teams. Fear the flannel is the slogan that I saw. Very creative. Russell Nicolay and his team, which are locally based, they live and serve in the Twin Cities community, so they are one of us, so to speak. They are here to help you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. You can start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. Hey, just quick vibes check here, Trevor. So the Twins just had their worst stretch of the season. Whether it was the week or the 2 or 3 week stretch, they've been playing largely poorly, but they are still just 3.5 games back of the Guardians, and now they're back up a game over the Royals, who've lost 6 consecutive. So to come out of your worst stretch of baseball and to rack up a few wins and to still be within striking distance of winning the division going into September could be worse. Could be
I
worse.
think the vibes are there. I think Buxton starting his rehab assignment is good vibes. I think the way they won against Toronto, with Royce's homer, obviously set the good vibes going into this road trip here. And then it's never easy to win in the Trop. We all know that. Although I think I said this on the pregame yesterday too. Tampa Bay, Kansas City, earlier on in the season would have seemed much more daunting. Now I feel like this is a road trip that they got to go. I think they can go 5-2 on it. Tampa is they haven't been playing great baseball as of late. They made some trades, and then Kansas City losing Vinny Pasquantino is so big I feel bad for them. I feel bad for Vinny. He's a great guy. He does a lot of stuff with John Boy, but he's been, one of their biggest run producers, top 5 in all of baseball in batting average, runners in scoring position. He's been the guy driving Bobby Witt Jr. in. Without him, it's a different type of ball club, and we kind of seen it now. They've been struggling a little bit. So I think that the Twins need to go and take care of business, especially against Kansas City. At the Trop thing is anything can freaking happen. We had one camera working yesterday to watch the game.
They
hilarious,
switched the
dude.
feed
I didn't know what was
to the
going on. I
Rays
was
feed.
like, is this some new fancy type of guerrilla editing or something?
Oh.
Gorilla
And and then Kansas City, I feel like you got to go try to bury them right now. I think that's what you got to do. So I think vibes are good. I wish we had more of an update, and maybe you got one, Dex, on Correa. I feel like it's time. It's like now or never. Like I know it's a pain thing, but he needs.
I don't know, man. They haven't heard anything. Even when I kicked around that idea of like, hey, what about Brooks Lee at third, Correa at short, you at second, Royce? Royce like, oh well, we gotta get Carlos back first. It's just, I don't know what their plan is, dude. Buxton's gonna have another rehab game tomorrow. The Saints are off, so like Buck's gonna probably come back this weekend, which is good. But at this point, like we're a month away, less than a month away. I believe the wild card series would start on October 1st. So assuming the Twins are at least in that, we're less than a month away, and there seems to be no real plan or update on when they're getting Carlos back.
I don't think he's coming back, boys.
Yeah.
Is he in Minnesota?
Yes, he's here.
He is
Yeah,
in Minnesota.
he's been at games.
Yeah, he's been at games. Yep.
But he has not spoken, and I don't think that there has been an update. And I have heard that there is right now no plan for him to go out, which he's going to have to do on a rehab assignment. But he has not spoken since a week ago Saturday when he first invoked hey, this involves that ankle that the Giants and Mets wouldn't sign me because of. So I think there's a real chance he does not come back. Like that
would be a massive hit to the Twins postseason.
There's something going on inside here that like we don't know, but this is assumption that it was just a plantar fasciitis. He had it last year. He's got it again. Oh well. I think was a gross misjudgment by us. I think this is a very different thing, Trevor.
I've been kind of poking around a little bit. I haven't really heard anything either. Even when I was down in San Diego with the team, just kind of that wasn't really talked about very much. So that's tough. I would love if it was just a pain management thing. I think he would be back, knowing Carlos and understanding this point of the season where it's at. So maybe, hopefully it's not something bigger than that, but it seems like it might be.
The fact it's not talked about internally is not a good thing because ordinarily that would be a big conversation if it was positive, right? Like I don't think teams internally, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they discuss things that feel hopeless. So like I don't think teams are like, let's talk, and like they do with like Falvey and Rocco.
They'd be excited to tell you if he made
and
progress.
They probably are just
let's put the tinfoil hat on here a little bit. Is this the reason that they're pushing Royce to second base, saying, okay, Brooks is going to be our shortstop. We don't really want Miranda over there. So Miranda's going to have to play third base, and go play
Yeah.
second base for us. Like it's probably
Yeah.
the reason for really breaking it down.
I mean,
That's some reporting right there.
if that's
Plouffe.
the case, would you rather have Royce go back to short where he was throughout his minor league career? Never.
Short's too important. You got to have a guy that can catch the ball at short. So,
No.
if I was now thinking about that, going forward, no Carlos Correa, you go Brooksley at shortstop. And if everyone's healthy, I guess the discussion is Willie Castro or Miranda in the lineup. Which one's better suited off the bench? Which one's better suited to start the games? Because that's the decision. Because it's going to be Buck, Larnick, and Wallner in the outfield, right?
Let me add to your theory with this.
I guess and Kepler's hurt now.
Well, yeah, which IR, my God, he's had a bad knee for like a week plus. To add to your theory, how about this one though? The Buck thing, like he's coming back, but it's a hip. It's been a problem before. If you don't totally trust that, I think your next best option is Castro in center, right?
And Buck at DH.
Well, or Buck not play. I'm just saying if Buck.
I disagree, dude.
Yeah.
Here's the thing:
If Buck can't play.
if we're trying to tap dance around a potential postseason run without Carlos Correa at short
you're
and
dead.
Byron Buxton in center,
You're dead.
like I'd rather just throw Buxton in center and say, until your body gives out, this is the only
you
chance
break.
we have. Yeah,
I'm gonna go get the ball.
you're not doing it if those guys aren't
I
playing
agree,
center.
but
You're not doing anything.
But the thought process is here is what do they? They're not going to acknowledge that.
What
I
if we
agree.
put Joe Mauer at catcher?
I agree with you
How's
completely,
he
Phil.
feeling? How's the body?
But I mean, teams think like, what can we do? What's the best thing? And Buck is now broken down again. And so I'm just saying that the path that you're going down, Trevor, actually makes some sense because they're not going to punt. Perhaps they
But
should,
then you could
they're not
still
going
put Willie at second base, leave Royce at third, and have Miranda DH, or just swap those two guys at DH. I don't know.
I think they also value Royce. They value Miranda over Royce defensively at third base right now.
So
If
DH him then.
If you were
DH him
just
then.
looking at the defensive pecking order, yeah, I think he'd be third string third base.
But he'd be pissed off DHing, wouldn't
Yes.
You think so?
Royce,
Over playing second base? I don't know. I think
he'd rather DH than play second base.
I think so too.
he? But I mean, he'd still be
100%.
pissed
Given
off.
those options.
Yes,
But he'd still be ticked off. He wouldn't be
Correct.
happy. Like he
Correct.
just wants to play third base and be left alone and mash, hopefully. That was a great conversation, by the
Wow.
way, John.
So, well, I mean, we're setting up for an intriguing September. By the way, ESPN.com has the Twins at like a 95% chance to make the postseason, even as currently constructed. So, Trevor Plouffe Tuesday here. You can find Coach Trev across John Boy Media, Talking Baseball, Baseball Today with Chris Rose. Great stuff, man.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks,
Glad you fixed that throwing disease, Trev. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Score North Twin Show.